Yeah, it's good to see you.
Yes, excellent.
It's pretty late, I guess,
Cool.
where you are, right? Around 9 or so.
Yes, yeah. And I had a full day today.
Yeah. So what all happened?
Well, my daughter competed today.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. What did she compete in?
She competed in power tumbling in gymnastics,
Okay, cool.
and yeah,
That's a tough thing, gymnastics. When I was really young, I took some gymnastics and I didn't stick with it, but those those are some high level athletes, especially as you get, into, a little bit older and you start competing at like those high levels. Those are some
yeah,
I think they're probably the highest level of athlete you can find is in gymnastics. I mean, the things that they have to do and balance,
yeah.
coordination, strength, everything, so it should uh it should be interesting as she gets old. Is she planning to does she like it?
Oh, she loves it. Yeah, she chose it before she even knew I did it. So
Okay.
that's amazing, right?
Yeah. So
Um,
how long did you end up doing gymnastics?
I started gymnastics at the age of 8, and then I went up to 16 years old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As in a competitive gymnast. And then I just did it, I guess, for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then I developed into doing cheerleading. But
Okay.
I started doing that when I was at university.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was two, so it was a bit of a gap.
Yeah, yeah. Well, since we kind of already rolled into the show basically because we started, talking about this, I was going to go ahead and ask you. It's usually what I at some point comes up in the conversation with everybody, but you talked about being in gymnastics, you went to cheerleading later on. How did you end up getting into bodybuilding and fitness and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, well, I started bodybuilding at the age of 30. That was the first time I ever picked up a weight.
Wait,
So that was 218.
so what made you do that? Like how did you, can you tell me about it? Like how you got to that point?
Yes. Well, firstly, was a gymnast, then did cheerleading.
Hmm.
Retired from that at the age of 27. I went to the World Championships in Florida, where
Okay.
Olympia is being held now
Yeah,
this
yeah,
year.
in Orlando. Yeah. Hmm.
So yeah, I did that. Then I did ballet. And then after that, I wanted something that I could carry on that had longevity, but I wasn't quite sure what that'll be. And then
Hmm.
someone said, after going to a fitness shoot, because I modeled for years
Hmm.
and I didn't add fitness to my books.
Hmm.
So I thought, okay, let me try that and see. And then they said, oh, okay. And we were talking about how to keep fit and they said, oh, do you go to the gym? And I was like, gymnastics? And they were like, no, the gym, lift weights. And I was like, no, it don't interest me. And then, when things just resonate in your head, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go. I was flying off to Africa to celebrate my 30th with my family.
Hmm.
So I flew off and things were just in my head. And then I thought, okay, when I get back, I'll try the gym. Um, so I ended up joining the gym. So my birthday was in December. I ended up joining the gym actually in April of that year. And then I decided I'm not going to lift weights. I'm going to go to a class. So I ended up going to classes for 3 months, well, nearly 4 months. Because they had these cool classes. It was like handstand, circus, body pump with no weight sort of thing. But it was like mixed with gymnastics. They had gymnastic conditioning. I
Right.
literally went past the weights and was
So,
like, oh no, I'm not doing that.
so something that you're like already familiar with, you went to something that you kind of had a, basis in. You were like, oh, I'll do that instead, you know.
Yeah, so that's what happened. And then it wasn't until I went to one of my friends' gym and I was like, oh, okay. And they were all like lifting and I said, oh, how'd you find it? And they were like, oh, it's great. It's challenging. And said, "Oh, is it?" And I said, you get to keep fit, and I was like, "Oh, look at your body and all of that." And then they were like, "Yeah, this is what you get, and try it out." And I thought, nah, it's not for me that day as well. And then my one of my friends then invited me to her gym, and she goes, "Oh, my gym's a little bit more calmer, try it here."
Hmm.
And she put me on the leg press, and I was like, "What is that?" She was like, "You firstly you got to go inside it. Secondly, you need to lift your legs with it." And I was like, "Oh, that is scary."
Yeah, that's amazing that like the you started so because usually when like I talk to people, they didn't start too young, but at the same time it wasn't like a couple of years ago or a few years ago. Usually it's like,
Yeah,
within the college years, things like that. But I mean, you started pretty late, and I'm just looking at your physique just on your page and everything. You've got a lot of muscularity. How did you
yeah.
get that, like, from training, or did you have a good portion of that kind of structure already before you got to lift weights?
I didn't have a structure before I lifted weights. I was
Mhm.
very slim. So typical gymnast body. If if you see my transformations, when I
Mhm.
started, I was 90 pounds, if that.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I had inner strength, or I guess, something that needed to be unleashed, but at the same time, you wouldn't see it physically on my body. So I didn't look strong, like, as people say I do now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's totally different of how you look now. Did you, once you started like working out and lifting, did you immediately think, okay, well, I'm gonna compete. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put it on stage, or was that something that came later? Did someone kind of encourage you to do that?
So it wasn't until after 3 months of lifting weights, someone said, if you, because they knew my past and they know I loved performing. So it wasn't competing per se. I just loved performing.
Hmm.
Just showing what I did, to others and then improving on it. That's like how I got my buzz in any sport that I did. And they said, you can compete in this, and I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. Um, but again, it wasn't the goal at the time.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until I actually decided to like Google and see what can be done. And then I Googled it and I thought, oh, this is quite cool.
Hmm.
Um, so I put it in my head. And then after that, I decided, okay, maybe I should compete, get a coach and see what they think of me. And I wasn't in it to do it quickly. I wanted to do it when I was ready to do it, or when my coach felt I was ready to do it. Because I
Hmm.
was used to having a coach as a gymnast,
Hmm.
and they would say, "Oh, okay, you're now ready for this level." So I decided to go and get a coach,
Hmm.
and
And then,
yeah,
and then you
blossomed.
just yeah, and then you decided to just go ahead and compete after that. What made you decide? So what division did you start off competing in?
So I was aiming for bikini
Mm.
actually, and but then as I started to grow, I was going towards figure. I didn't know about the fitness category actually, to be fair. That much. I did see people like Oksana Grishna, Winnie Jones. I saw Missy, but I didn't associate them being in a fitness category. So I just saw them for wow,
Hmm.
because that's what I googled, but I didn't read the fine print. So
Right.
I was like, oh, that's it. Like and then the coach I was with was like, oh, figure.
Hmm.
So I said, okay. It wasn't until lockdown when I was tumbling in the park with my daughter. And then my coach messaged me and goes, have you ever thought about fitness? And then I thought, funny that I think I've got about 40 messages in my box saying this now. What's that? She goes, oh, and then she described it all to me. And I was like, okay, so same kind of goal, but then I can add in things that I've already learned in the past and, bring
Hmm.
them all together. I thought, wow, that's great. So she said, okay, in the next comp, because we're aiming for the Arnold's UK, it was coming to the country, first ever time. And she goes, maybe you should try that. And I'm like, am I ready for that? Because I was like, I think I should bulk up to 224. She went, no, you'll be ready. Don't bulk to 224. This is 221. You imagine how big I'd have been. But
Imagine
yeah,
trying to
I'm glad to stop
tumble
that.
at that weight.
Exactly. So she's like, no, you'll be ready this year. I went, oh, okay, well, I trust you. Um, so I said, let's get ready for that. And she goes, oh, by the way, you can do both categories, until you're pro, and then you can decide which way
Hmm.
you want to go, or let them decide which way you're going to go.
Hmm.
So I said, okay. So in the regional, so you have to do a regional comp first before you step onto an Arnold stage or a pro qualifier, I should say.
Hmm.
So I did the regional. I did figure and fitness. So I won both.
Hmm.
So at that point, it's like, okay, do
Yeah.
both at the Arnold UK. And so I did the Arnold's UK and I did both. And I came second in figure. And then I got my pro card in fitness.
Hmm.
So I was actually amateur for 4 weeks. And then the next day they said, okay, pro show, so you can do that. I said, okay, I'll do that. And guess what happened? I won qualified for Olympia straight away. And
Right, right, immediately, huh? That you don't hear that happen too often. That's pretty amazing.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what happened. So it was a very quick journey. And I just remember being backstage like, now what? And I don't think it sunk in. And I was just so happy. I was in shock, happy. I didn't know what to do. And I was like, so what happened? And she was like, well, we have to get ready for Olympia. But
Mhm.
first of all, maybe we should do some warm-ups. So,
So
and then
uh, did you? So you went to the Olympia? What year you said what that was again?
that went to Olympia
Yeah. Well, I'm
last
sorry.
year.
So okay. So last year was the same year that you got your pro card, and the same year you went to the Olympia, correct?
So I got my pro card in October 2021.
Oh, 221.
I
Gotcha.
qualified for Olympia 222.
Got it. Got it.
So
So it was a year behind, but still, that's an incredibly like amazing, accomplishment. I mean, it takes people years to get to the Olympia, and
yeah,
it's a tough task, and for some people, like just going to the Olympia is like being an Olympia champ. Like it's like just to make it there, just to be able to step on stage is a big deal because it's so difficult. So the fact that you're able to go pro and then the next year go straight to the Olympia, I mean, it's an amazing thing. So at that point, did you decide, okay, I'm just gonna stick to fitness, and that's the route that I'm gonna take?
yeah, straight away. I mean, I
Mhm.
absolutely loved it on stage when I performed it. Both times at the regional and at the Honors UK, I had to do it twice. So I
Mhm.
had to do it on
Mhm.
a Friday, then I had to do it on a Saturday. So that really solidified, and the judges believed in me clearly. So I thought,
Mhm.
okay, that's the category I'm gonna stick to. And it was just really nice to be able to do something that brings everything together that I did from a child, which I
Yeah.
never thought that would happen. So
Right. Well, because if you go to a different division like figure, that aspect of the tumbles and the gymnastics part of it, it just goes away. So, those things,
yeah,
those skills that you've developed, won't get used. But here in
no,
fitness, you get to use everything and you get to show off your physique as well. So it's a combination of both worlds.
yes,
Yeah. Every girl that I've interviewed that is in fitness always talk about how close knit the girls are in that division.
yes.
Do you find it to be similar?
Yes, it is. As soon as I even did my regional, I remember people messaging me saying how I did and
Hmm.
encouraged me to carry on. And it was just so nice. I wasn't used to that from, competing in other sports.
Mhm.
As much as I got encouraged, it was just different. And I think it's because there's not many of us
Mhm.
around the world.
Yeah.
And I think they understood what it took to obviously, do that, because it takes quite a bit to go to the gym, then you have to think about your routine, that practice, and then put it all together, and you're depleted, low on calories. There's so many factors. Your endurance still has to be high, and this, and also
Mhm.
they all had backgrounds in sports themselves. Not everyone, but most had some sort of background, whether it be dance as well, or
Mhm.
they built themselves up from the ground, up as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just nice to be part of a community, which I wasn't used to. Um, and also I can talk to any of them at any time. They never be like, oh, okay, we're not going to talk to you or anything like that. In fact, they were just so encouraging of it.
Yeah.
And I loved it, loved that, they loved that part of it.
Hmm. That's like that's something that like you don't really see, like you said, in other sports. Like you'll get encouragement, but everything is so cutthroat, in other sports that it gets like, but even, but honestly, even other divisions too, because I feel like out of all the divisions, fitness, is much more close knit than the other divisions. For example, I was talking to someone else and they were saying, well, like you mentioned, that there aren't that many fitness competitors, so it automatically brings everybody closer together. Do you think that's a detriment or a benefit? Obviously, being close together is a benefit, but is are you concerned, or should the IBB or the fitness division be concerned that there aren't a lot of fitness competitors? Like you'll have bikini, you have wellness, you have like figure is kind of not as many also, but you have these divisions that have, I mean, in a show we'll have like 100 girls or something like that, and fitness, is very secluded, like kind of environment. What do you think about that?
Well, as I said, it takes, a certain person to be in this category because of the skills you have to have, plus obviously the body. So I don't think they should be concerned. I think in like Europe, I'll just speak for Europe or the
Hmm.
UK, I think more people should be aware of the category,
Mm.
um, if that makes sense.
So you think
And
it's like a lack
how,
of awareness?
yeah, because I didn't know.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if I didn't know from the beginning, and if I knew from the beginning, I probably would have just gone straight into fitness.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't have done figure.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes it takes like a breakout star, someone who's like extremely popular, that that can bring attention to the division. And the reason I say that is because I look at somebody like uh Chris Bumstead, I mean, you might, who knows how popular that division would have been if he wouldn't was not the champion, right? Because he's
Yeah,
such a huge star, he kind of brings a lot of attention to his own division. I think Missy
yeah,
is very popular, but I think getting more of those kind of stars is going to really like benefit the division. All, and that goes for every division, but yeah.
yeah. So it's more popular, in the States. But it's just getting awareness, I think, across the world
Hmm.
is the key to this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand where you're coming from. So, what about now, you have to remind me of like your competitive history this year. Are you planning to go to the Olympia this year, or what, where are you at?
No, I decided to take a break. So I haven't had a
Mhm.
break since I decided to go for my pro card.
Nice.
I haven't had an off season, but this is my off season to, home in, improve on skills or anything I need to work on that the
Hmm.
judges, gave me. They gave me, very good feedback. So I decided I wanted to experience an off season. After having a very good run, I am so grateful for how it's a dream. you know,
Mm-hmm.
winning the Arnold's UK, going on to coming second in the States after Chicago Pro.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went on and did the Arnold's UK again. And then after that came top 5 at Olympia. And then after that came third at Arnold's US, like,
Yeah.
and then Vancouver, I came second there. So, you know, in Canada. So it's like, wow. Um, so
So
I decided I just wanted to just reset. And then next year I'll be at it again.
yeah, I mean, you had your foot on the gas for so long. It's hard to make. You can't really make improvements during that time
Yeah,
period. You're almost like just keeping your level where you're at and just maybe doing some fine tuning for the shows, but for the most part, you're not really improving. So it's really important to have a good, off season. So
exactly.
what are your you said that the judges give you some good feedback. What feedback did they give you?
Well, they said for my body, I've reached pretty much the top of the category in terms of muscularity.
Mm-hmm.
So keep it there. Just keep refining, condition. You can always condition, but obviously not too much. Um, keep referring back to the category. And, we're supposed to have a figure physique. So keeping it there and concentrate more on my routine, they said, because they said my body's there.
Mm-hmm.
So building more strength moves. They said just fine tuning, getting it smoother. At one point, it was making sure my endurance was up all the way to the end, which I cracked at the Arnold's
Mm-hmm.
USA. So it's now just, I guess, looking at the top athletes, just making it very smooth, making sure the strength moves are complete.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, just building on that, they said, and then obviously just refining my body, and that's it. So it's not that bit, but there's a lot of work to do. But at the same time, it's just putting it all together, but at a high standard because I came
Sure.
into it so quickly. So
Sure. Well, so you said that they said you physique wise, you're kind of they don't want you to gain any more muscle. Is that was that the basically the consensus?
yes.
Are they afraid that you're gonna come kind of work your way out of the division if you if you gain more muscle?
No, they haven't said that yet. So
Okay.
they haven't
Okay.
actually said that. They said concentrate on my routine.
They haven't told you yet that you're too muscular for your
No.
division, so you have room to grow, but not they don't want you to go like too far.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, everything was a bit
Yeah, yeah.
a space. Literally, they kept saying to me with big eyes. So I was like, okay, I think I get that. Don't go wild,
Right.
basically.
Right. Well, they probably they see people do that all the time. It's they probably see people like grow out of their divisions all the time, and so I'm sure they're like they see you and they're like, "Oh, you're doing so well. Like, don't mess it up, by doing something
I
like that."
think, I think
So
that's
yeah.
basically, yeah, like don't go wild and think, oh, I need to, grow masses or, refine my whole routine so that it's something totally different. Because they said they did, make some really good points and say they love my power,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they love my energy now. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and how, I'm performing. So I think it's just me just building. They said
Mm-hmm.
that's the exact same words. They said just building on that. And they said a bit.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
So what is your training in the off season look like? Do you lift heavy? Are you like more of a volume, person?
I do a mixture. So I'm lifting more heavy, but I lifted quite heavy before, with volume.
This is probably why you
Always make
got you.
sure it's not too much for my body though, as in terms of
Mhm,
I don't feel anything is gonna injure me,
mhm,
if that makes sense.
mhm,
But at the moment, I'm focusing on power for my routine. So the way I'm lifting is for my routine. Um, so in terms of calories, it's more of a maintenance calories rather than me going really high in the calories to bulk. If that makes
mhm.
sense.
Gotcha.
So and then, yeah,
Do you have like a certain amount of like are you trying to keep or reach a certain weight, or are you just kind of watching the mirror and just seeing, how your body responds to what you're doing?
I'm not trying to keep a certain weight. I'm just trying to maintain as much muscle as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And just tuning little things. So like my lats could go a little bit bigger. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not working muscles that are maxed out, like my biceps, my triceps,
Mm-hmm.
shoulders. I can, cap off a bit more. So, so working with those within my remit to keep in my category. And then lifting in a way so that I'm building strength, endurance, and power for my routine. So that's how I've structured it.
Got it.
uh,
Are you building a new routine for this next year when you're going to start competing back up?
yes, I am
Yeah.
indeed.
Okay. Okay. Nice. So looking forward to that. Is it already like developed and you're just practicing it, or are you still in the process of kind of building it?
So I have a plan of action.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I stepped up the last stage, I flew to Whitney Jones,
Mm-hmm.
who does my routine, and we came up with a nice plan of action to go forward. And
Okay.
then I based my training and how I'm working my skills around that.
Mm-hmm.
So she's really good because she loves me to bring in my personality, things that I enjoy doing, and so and then obviously we look at the judges' feedback importantly. So we put all those things together, and then I come up with a plan based on when I think I'm going to step on stage again. So
Well, if you have to choose a person to, help you with your routine and everything, I mean, she's definitely, one of the top ones you can choose. So I think you're in good hands there for sure.
thank you. I think I am too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been amazing. She literally took me under her wings. Soon as I stepped off the Honors UK stage, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to Whitney.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone else who to go to because she fitted me.
Mm-hmm.
And the way she's powerful as well, and I've been told I'm quite powerful. So as
Mm-hmm.
soon as I saw it, it's like she's my style, and she'll
Yeah.
get me. She did. So
Do you have particular shows that you want to do in
I am
next year?
hoping to apply for Arnold USA.
Oh, that would be exciting. Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I want to start that season off with Arnold's USA, and then Arnold's UK is back. So I'm
Nice.
hoping. Let's see. Got to
Uh-huh.
aim high, but I would love to qualify for both. So I'm going
I
to
don't,
put my application and fingers crossed.
yeah, I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, coming in top five at the Olympia, I don't see why you wouldn't. And
Yeah,
yeah, I think the Arnold US would be a great show for you. I think it's just it's a, such a it's I went last year. It's such a great like environment there, and I mean it's just amazing. Like it's hard for me to find words to describe. Like the production is great. Like the lighting is amazing.
I
It's
was
just
there.
oh, you were there. Okay, okay.
I came third.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I was
Yeah. This
my
year, I keep
yeah.
thinking it was last year, but I came third, and this year is Arnold US. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know why my mind is going blank now. So I'm trying to keep
Don't
up with
worry.
everything.
It's
Um,
so quick my journey. Like even me, I said, oh, I said, oh, someone said to me, oh, you've had a good year, and I said, I only did what? Oh wait, I was like, oh wait, it was this year. So even I was like, forgot it
yeah,
was this year.
I think what happens is like, especially with COVID happening and with the pandemic and everything like that, it kind of threw things for a loop. And so like people are kind of disoriented, like, oh, which shows was what year, who competed, here, who competed there. And especially like
Yeah,
for me, where I'm interviewing a lot of people and talking to people, it's like, well, who competed at this show? I completely forgot that Ramy competed at the Arnold that I watched. I was there. I saw him compete. I took like pictures of him and everything, and
yeah.
and it's like I completely forgot that he competed there. It's a mess. But yeah, I sometimes think years are a blur, but it's good if it's like a good blur, right? If you
Yeah.
did well and you're like, hey, I went through the year, I competed, I did a good job, and now I'm ready for, improvement and ready for the next year. So yeah, it would be amazing to do Arnold USA, Arnold UK, and then, you win one of those, you go straight to the Olympia, and then,
Yeah,
off to the races. So
yeah, that's the plan. So,
yeah.
we'll see what happens. As I said, and I'm just grateful to step on any of the big stages, and
Mhm.
have a chance to do it, consecutively is a dream to
Sure.
me. So
Sure. So with you starting late, more or less later, in life and competing,
yeah.
do you have like a certain time limit that you've set for yourself? Like, I'm going to compete this amount of years and then I'm
No.
done, or are you just going to keep going until, until you decide one day that you won't?
Yeah, I'm pretty chill
Mhm.
like that. So as long as I'm having fun, I will carry
Mhm.
on. As soon as that fun or that spark dies, then I'm like, okay, maybe
Mhm.
try to do something else. But
Right.
in the
You might
meantime, I'm actually loving what I'm doing.
you might be in an advantage. I was just thinking that a lot of times when people started very early, they've accumulated some health risks, competing and
Yeah,
everything. And so by the time they're in their 30s, they're already kind of worried, about their health and everything like that. But
yeah,
like when you start later, it's almost like you've got an advantage over all people like that. So
yeah, yeah. That's a
you
good
could,
way of putting
I mean, you could say
it.
that, at least in that
Yeah, I'm very
aspect, right?
new. Yeah,
Yeah,
still very new to this. So, you
sure.
know, this is my second year.
hmm And I mean, you'll get like what people refer to as like fresh muscle, as opposed to people that have been
Yeah,
competing for a long time. And fresh muscle always looks better, And I mean, there is
yeah,
like a level of like people say as you keep training, you get a little graininess and things like that are helpful, maturity. Yeah,
yeah,
but fresh muscle is a good thing, I think, and I think you've got that. I mean, when I'm looking at the pictures, I think you've got that.
yeah.
So you can
Thank you.
keep going with it for sure.
Yeah.
Have you thought about possibly in the future going to a different division like women's physique or anything like that or
I will let my body decide,
Mhm.
as I've always said. Again, if I, don't like the fitness portion of the, like the routine, for example, and I just want to do the physique part, then I might consider it. But it depends on where my body goes
Sure.
and how I feel. So I wouldn't say I would make a decision. I would make a decision based on how I feel at that time.
hmm hmm Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. When I was talking to Missy, one of the things that she was like messing around with was competing occasionally in figure. and
Yes.
just because in her mind she was thinking, well, at some point I'm not going to be able
Yeah.
to do these routines anymore, and
Yeah.
figure seems like a good transition. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely understand that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I could, go either way. Like, like you said, we'll see. I've been told I could probably do figure and
hmm
physique because, I'm already at a point of, reaching the muscle mass for figure, as
hmm
so they said. So, you never know. But anyways, I really
yeah,
enjoy what I'm doing in terms of the fitness element added
right.
to it now. And I feel like there's so much more to learn. Um, I'm always learning,
hmm
constantly learning. And until that, I guess, stops for me in my head, then
Right.
I'm gonna carry on.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, obviously, like you're in a point now where you're still climbing, and so when you're
Yeah.
climbing, you're not necessarily thinking about the descent. You're still thinking about the
No,
climb. So yeah,
yes, I'm like, oh, this is climb, 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 climb. Just keep improving.
yeah, yeah. Good, good. That's great. That's a great attitude to have. So do you do coaching yourself and training as well?
Yes, so I PT and I do online coaching as well. So
Okay.
um I do lifestyle clients,
hmm
clients that don't compete.
hmm
I also do clients who want to build strength and conditioning for their sport. which is
Hmm.
quite interesting. I like that a lot.
Okay.
And I also have some bodybuilding prep clients as well now as
Okay.
well.
So what are your like favorite? Is it lifestyle? Is it the sports ones or the prep?
I like it all actually. I
Mm.
like the challenge of getting someone to their goal or helping them get to their
Hmm.
goal because they put in the work after all.
Yeah.
And supporting them, guiding them, and just showing them what is possible.
Hmm.
That makes sense. I always, anyone in my team, I always say, be the best version of yourself. Don't watch other people's journey. Your journey is unique to you,
Hmm.
and your journey is what, wherever you make of it. And, I'm here to give you that support and guidance and to hopefully pave the way as well. Because a lot of people say they inspired to my journey because they actually watched it with their own eyes. You know,
Yeah.
me being
Yeah.
a single mom, working 7 days a week and getting to the top to them was a myth. So if I can help others break down this myth, I'm happy.
Hmm. It is pretty amazing to see someone that that has accomplished like that has some adversity and has overcome it and accomplished, you know, a high level of success at whatever they're doing. In your case, it's competitive bodybuilding on this side of things. Obviously, I'm sure you've accomplished other things in your life, but um, and it's important that like your coach, I believe it's important that your coach like exemplifies what you would like to achieve. Sometimes you'll see coaches and you look at them and you're like, you don't look or act like someone that I would want to aspire to be. And
Yeah.
I understand that, you know, being a great coach doesn't necessarily mean that, you're doing things yourself. You can teach other people do it. Maybe you can't do it yourself. I get that happens sometimes, but especially as like maybe a regular person out there who's looking
Yeah.
to improve, they need to see their coach do the things that they're telling them to do and
Yeah.
be able to accomplish and succeed, because then they feel like they can do that too.
Yes.
It's an important thing, and I definitely understand what you're saying when you say that like they've seen you do all these things, be a mom, work full time, compete and reach high levels, and so then they feel that they can do it too.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that something that you when when you started coaching, like was that something that um well, I should say, when you started competing, did you start coaching then, or were you coaching way before you competed in bodybuilding?
I was coaching gymnastics from a very young age.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're
Yeah,
very
pretty much
familiar.
when I was allowed to coach, when I was
Mhm.
of age to coach, I was coaching. So I would also help. So when I became a teenager, I would help the other coaches with their squads, like making sure the
Mhm.
kids' toes were pointed, um, legs were straight, doing the right exercises. And then they'll ask me to do different sequences with them. It just started like that and
Mhm.
it built. So I was already coaching, in
Yeah.
different sports as well. It wasn't just gymnastics. I also coached a bit in cheerleading too.
Okay. Okay. So
Uh,
you're very familiar with it. You're bringing up
yeah.
like PTSD for me, because from gymnastics when I was young, I was
No, do
I'm
that.
a I'm originally from Ukraine, but back then there was all under the Soviet government, and so
Yeah.
like they're very strict, and it's like I just remember that them doing telling us like all the things that you're talking about when I was little. I was like, this is not for me. I was
Oh
uh,
no.
yeah,
They use
but
a
I
bit more different in the UK. I mean, I remember doing an exchange.
hmm
They used to do these exchange programs, and which is quite interesting. So we would go
yeah
to different countries. I remember going to you know,
uh-huh
different places
uh-huh
as well, and you would see how they trained. So
yeah
that
I
was
mean
insightful.
Eastern Europeans are very serious about their gymnastics. Like, they don't play about their gymnastics, like Romania, like all those countries. And I'm not,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
I don't keep up with it as much as I used to when I was younger, but that's like the from what I remember from back in the day, you know. So I don't know if things have changed, but yeah. Are you do you keep up with gymnastics now? Like
I
the you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still love the sport, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I still coach gymnastics as well.
Okay. Okay. So you never let that go, even with your
No,
bodybuilding.
I just made it more flexible. So at
Mhm.
one point I was coaching squad gymnastics full time. And it wasn't until after I won the Arnold's UK, I decided that I can't have contracted hours where I'm
Mm.
constantly working the same pattern every week. So then I became known as over here self-employed.
Got it. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I can train,
Right.
and I can support my daughter as well and look after her and be able to still work and train at the same time and not think, oh no, I can't do this because I have to be here for this
Mm.
amount of hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for what you're trying to accomplish, you need flexibility, and
Yeah.
that's you can't you can't be have a rigid working schedule and still be able to do the things that you need to do. You know.
Yeah. And travel.
Sure.
That's another thing. I felt like it was as much as it was, sad when I left, because I coached kids from the age of 3 and they were,
Mm.
going on 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. But at the same time, they understood it and they said to me, they will see me as well. They still follow my journey. They still
Mm.
support it. I still support their journeys and I'm still able to still coach, but privately.
Yeah.
So that was another avenue. And I still is involved in British gymnastics as well on a
Mm.
committee level.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, so that's,
You've got a very full
amazing.
plate. You got a
Yes,
very
I
full
do.
plate.
But at the same time, I can do it depending on my schedule.
Sure.
So I work everything around first and foremost my daughter and then
Mm.
around my training.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my training is built in, and then if I have time around that, I will coach.
Yeah. I think that's important. Like it seems like you've got your priorities set and you understand like what's first, what's second, what's third, and you've
Yeah.
got things arranged. And I feel like sometimes in bodybuilding, like especially people that are a little bit younger, they don't really have their priorities right. And so sometimes it messes over like they can only keep it up for so long and then things come crashing down, and it's
Yeah.
important to have your priorities right. So
Yeah. I mean, when I came into this, as you said, coming into it at an older age, I already been through that whole younger
mhm,
stage, I guess,
yeah.
but in a different world.
Hmm.
So by the time I got to that, to the age I started bodybuilding, I said to
Hmm.
myself, whatever I do going forward, I need to have a plan of action. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to execute, you
Sure.
know, anything.
Yeah.
Um, so
And I'm
I, yeah, and I
yeah.
knew from other sports as well that I needed to have a plan of action. I need to have, certain support in place, or I needed to build support
Mhm,
in place,
mhm.
not necessarily have
Yeah,
it.
I mean, coming from gymnastics, I would imagine that you're very structured. Like that's probably very disciplined, very structured.
Yeah.
I wrestled for majority of my life and did a lot of like combat sports and things like that. And people ask me, well, like, like what's the one thing like you kind of learn from wrestling and things like that? And it's not the moves, it's not the strength, it's not agility, it's not all that. It's discipline. It's like if you can become disciplined, um, I mean, it'll take you so far, it'll take you so far. And, sometimes people lack that. So in gymnastics, I know from dealing with people that have been in gymnastics, discipline is extremely important in that sport. So,
Yeah, that's true actually, because I think I got far in, the sports that I did because I'm one of those 0 to 100 people. If
hmm.
I want to do something, I will put in my all. And I learned that from gymnastics, that
But
it's not just your all, you have to really go for it if that's what you want. So I think going into bodybuilding, I went with that same discipline.
Absolutely.
Um, so when someone said to me, you got to train for this amount of hours and you got to eat a certain way, I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
let's do it. Because,
Yeah.
just come up with a plan of action. And they're like, yeah, but you need to cut things out and do this. And I was like, yeah, I'm used to that. I was already
Yeah.
used to that. So it
Yeah.
was
Well,
like,
you're,
okay, let's just come up with a plan and I will follow it. I like ticking boxes. Been
yeah.
doing it all my life.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's like, you don't complain. You don't like, you're just like, this is what needs to be done. You
Yeah,
just do it. That's the way it works. And you take that from, in your case, from gymnastics, and you apply it in other areas of your life, and you find
yeah,
success. So yeah, absolutely.
exactly. So even when someone said, oh, but if what happens if you have to train for 2 hours? So be it.
Yeah.
I was used to training 6 hours a day. So I didn't believe in things like I never heard of pre-workouts. My coach said to me, you need water and and maybe, but all you need is the air that you breathe to get through
Hmm.
your routine. So I was like, what's all this? You know? So
Yeah.
it's a
I
whole
rem
new world for me.
That reminds me. So there's a Russian mixed martial arts champion, Habib, and he's retired now. But one of the things that he
Yeah.
said when he came to the U.S., because he trained in eventually when he got a little older, he trained in the U.S. And he was talking about how like people talked about recovery. They're like, take this for recovery, take that for recovery.
Yeah.
He's like, we didn't know any of that. We were like, recovery is just sleeping. Like you just sleep, you
Yeah.
hydrate, and that's it, and you're recovered. Like there's no supplements, there's no like nothing like that. So
No. To
yeah.
this day, I don't actually take any pre-workouts apart from
Mhm.
maybe I have an English tea. I like English tea.
I
And
imagine you would. Yeah.
yeah, and occasionally a coffee.
Hmm.
But I can go days without having a coffee as well.
Yeah.
So it all
No.
depends. I'm one of those people that I like to see how my body is, how it feels. First and foremost, I'm very into my sleep. I
Hmm.
have been from I've been disciplined in sleep from a young age. My mom made sure of that. She raised me as an athlete. She
Hmm.
always said, you need to go to bed, you need to go to bed, you need to go to
Yeah.
bed. And then I realized, I think when I got a little bit older,
Yeah.
sleep makes you feel good. Plus,
Yeah.
drink your
That's
water.
100%. I mean, a lack of sleep is extremely detrimental to everything. If you can't get, and I'm not like I myself have trouble sleeping, and I can tell the nights that I don't sleep well. I can tell the next day. Like I can feel it in my
Yeah,
workouts. I can feel it just in my day to day. And so,
yeah,
that's so important is to be able to sleep. And yeah, no, I agree with you
yes.
there. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show, Michelle. Thank you for your time. I know it's late, where you are, and I'm cutting into your sleep a little bit, probably.
No, it's okay. I've been very much looking forward to it. And
Yeah,
but yeah, thank you for inviting me. I
of course.
appreciate that.
So, if anybody wants to reach out to you for coaching or for another podcast or anything like that, like what would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
On Instagram, which is Shelly, SHELLY, FIT underscore IFBB Pro.
Awesome. And guys, I'm going to link everything at the bottom just to make it easier for you to reach out to Michelle, hit the like and subscribe. And Michelle, thank you so much. You take care. Have a good evening.
Yep, too.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.